All right, welcome back to the SSL Family Dad channel. Today I'm going to talk all about hatching your own baby chicks. The last few years here on the farm, we have been raising kind of a sustainable or regenerative type of a flock, where every year or several times throughout the year, we will raise up a new generation of baby chicks, and we'll continue having newer ones always being raised up, and then they're the heaviest layers for us, obviously the healthiest, youngest chickens, and then as the chickens get older, or if we have too many roosters, we'll get those processed for food for us, for meat. And so we always have a source of eggs and a source of meat kind of throughout the year. But an essential part of that is knowing how to hatch our own baby chicks, going through the whole incubation process and raising them out. And so that's what I'm going to kind of go through today. So it all starts at the little suburban coop here. We have a small kind of breeding flock that we've sustained over the years. And I'll take you in the yard here and just show you what chickens we have, and then we'll go through the process of collecting the eggs and incubating them and hatching out some baby chicks. So this is our small little suburban coop here. It's a 30 by 40 foot run in this area, and this is the little flock that we use for breeding and for our own personal egg consumption here. There's 10 chickens in here, one rooster. You'll see the rooster Thor there, the big guy. I believe that he is a Silver Lace Wyandotte rooster. He was given to us by a good friend, thanks Todd and family. And we also have a couple other chickens that have been given to us in here. We've got a Buff Orpington, and then I think there's an Isa Brown over there. And the rest are Barred Rocks. So we've got the Barred Rocks in here as well. The Barred Rocks over there, those are our favorite. Those are the ones that we want to continue to kind of raise out as much as possible. They're a great dual purpose breed. The Silver Lace Wyandotte is also a great dual purpose breed. That just means that they are good heavy egg layers, and they also are good meat birds. They're heavy enough and big enough. They grow big enough to produce a good meat chicken also. All right, so I'm gonna answer a couple quick questions here before we collect some eggs and get into the incubation process. Number one, yes, you do have to have a rooster in the flock somewhere in order to have fertilized eggs. The roosters don't fertilize the actual eggs. They mate with the hens, and then the hens lay an egg that is fertilized, which means that if it's incubated or a chicken sits on it for 21 days, that it will hatch into a baby chick, or at least you have a really good chance of that happening. And so you do have to have a rooster. And the other question I'd like to answer that I get asked all the time is, can you eat fertilized eggs? So if I have a rooster in the flock and they're fertilized and mating with the hens, and the hens are laying these fertilized eggs, is it weird to eat those, or is there something different? The answer is no. There's nothing different. There's nothing wrong with those. You're not ever going to tell the difference. In fact, some people say they're better, all these things. There's really no difference. A fertilized egg, you're collecting these eggs out of the coop every day. So that means they're not incubated. That means nothing has started to form in the egg. There's no baby in there. It's not weird. There's nothing different in there. There is, you can find sometimes a tiny little speck in the center of the egg that's about the size of a flake of pepper maybe. And that would be the only difference that you might be able to see, if at all. So what we do when we're ready to collect our eggs, or ready to start incubating anyways, we'll come out and we'll collect the eggs every single day. It's important that you get them out of cold weather. So if you're incubating early in the spring, say February, March in the northern states, it's going to be cold, and you want to get the eggs inside as quickly as possible. So what we'll do is we'll just grab these eggs, and usually we get between 6 and 9 eggs per day. We'll come out here and collect, and so we'll take those inside, and I put them in our basement to keep them cool. And so you want to keep them 60 degrees or so, and you want to store them until you're ready to incubate. Once you get your incubator set up, you don't want to add 6 eggs per day. The incubator that we have holds 40 eggs or 41 eggs, and so we want to save up until we have about 20 eggs. We'll put 2 batches in at 20 eggs, and the reason for that is if you put just 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 eggs in there every day for 4 or 5 days, 6 days, you're going to have baby chicks hatching out at different times all over those 6 days. And so it's better to have them all hatching out in batches. So generally that's what we do. You can save up and have them all hatch out at once. We generally do 2 batches, and so we'll save up until we have about 20 to 22 eggs. put them in there, and then we'll wait another few days, collect up another 20, 22 eggs, and we'll put them in there as a second batch. So let me show you the incubator setup that we have. It's super simple. It was a store-bought deal. Give you some tips and tricks on how to get the eggs in there labeled and ready to go. All right, so this is the inside operation. We've got baby chicks here at all different stages, and so I'll show you the whole process here. So this is the incubator that we use. It's a Farm Innovators. I think this was purchased at TSC or possibly Amazon. I think that this is available. You can buy it on Amazon too, and so I'll link it there. But this is an open tray style of incubator, and there's a small channel on the bottom you fill with water, and that keeps your humidity up in there. That's got to have nice humid air to keep the eggs incubated. And then I usually throw a little thermometer that comes with there just on top of the eggs, and that needs to be kept at 99.5. This thermometer up here is actually not quite accurate. The one in there is the one that we want to pay attention to. So you just adjust the heat knob here, and you just keep an eye on that little thermometer in there and make sure it stays about 99.5. Once you put the eggs in there, they do need to be rotated every single day, at least twice or 3 times a day. I used to just come in here and rotate them every day, lunch, dinner, and breakfast, but there's a much easier way. This is the egg rotator, the automatic egg turner that is built for this incubator, and I have it out right now because the eggs are hatching. You take this out just 2 days before they start to hatch. But this just slowly rotates all the eggs back and forth in there, and so you don't have to worry about rotating them. If you do not turn your eggs enough, the chicks can end up with deformities, and so you want to avoid that. Make sure that they get turned, and so I highly recommend having the automatic turner also. That is, doesn't come with it. You got to buy it separate, but it makes a huge difference for raising out healthy chicks. All right, we're gonna take a look under the hood here just to show you what's going on. So you'll see that in pencil, I have written the date that I put the eggs in there. I have 2 batches in here right now. There's a bunch that were put in there on the 27th of March and a bunch that were put in on the 30th. And we've got one, see that little cracked egg right there? You can see a little baby chick just starting to break out. And it looks like we have another one moving around over there. You can see it rocking. So these guys, all the ones that were put in on the 27th, they're all starting to hatch out now. And you can see them, it's called pipping. They'll come through and you'll hear them start chirping through the egg there, and they'll slowly zip or unzip that egg. They'll start to tear through it. And I'll show you a time lapse of one hatching out last year here. But they'll slowly kind of hatch out of there and pop the egg off, and then they'll be in there running around. So I generally do not wash the eggs unless, if they're really dirty, they've been chicken manure on them or something like that. I'll clean some of it off, but generally I just put them right in here, and I've never had an issue with that, with the health of any of the chicks or anything like that. So that guy right there, he'll be out. Sometimes it takes a couple hours. Sometimes it can take 8 or 10 hours. They can pip like that, pop a hole in it, and then they'll just sit there. And you'll think they died. And sometimes it takes a long time. But 21 days at 99.5 degrees with keeping the humidity in there going, and you'll get a real good hatch rate. 2 days before, so on day 19, you want to take that egg turner out and stop turning the eggs. You just want to leave them be. A little air bubble forms in the egg in a certain place, and they orientate themselves so that they're ready to use that to their advantage as they break out of the egg. One of the hardest things about this process is not helping them break out of their eggs. There's been several occasions where we've seen them poke through. You can see their little beaks in there, breaking through the egg. You can see them starting to come out. And then, hours and hours and hours will go by, and you think, man, are they dying? What's going on? And we have tried to help them out before. We've had some that looked like they were dying in there. You just can't help them out. You have to let nature take its course, because they're kind of attached to the egg until they're ready to break out of it. And if you try to peel the egg back or get your fingers in there, number one, you're letting cold air in, dry air in, and that can cause issues with them coming out. So you can actually be a cause of them not hatching properly by trying to help them. And number two, if they're not strong enough to get out of the egg, there's probably something wrong with that chicken, and it unfortunately just has to take its course. And so That's one of the hardest parts, is just letting, sometimes they don't make it out, and sometimes that's just the way it goes, but you gotta let them be. After they bust out of their shells, and we'll let them kind of waddle around in the incubator for a little bit, and then we'll move them over to this this fancy cardboard box little brooder. And we've got two that have come out so far. Looks like that one's probably a Barred Rock mix, and maybe a Buff Orpington there, or an ISA mix. And so these guys are nice and healthy. They have been in here now for, this guy was the first one to come out, the light colored one. And this one's been here about an hour or two. And so they're looking nice and healthy. So once you move your baby chicks, once they've hatched out, and you move them into your brooder, we just use large flake pine shavings. You want to use the large flakes because they will peck at them and they'll try to eat them. And they will end up eating some of the little pieces. It's just how it goes. Yeah, don't eat that, see? But we've got a couple things in here. So we've got a little feeder. We do get flock raiser. It's an actual food that is for baby chicks, high protein food for them. We have our heat lamp in here, which is the most important thing. I'll talk about that here in a minute. I do have a thermometer in there. I just try to keep track of the temperature. You want them to be about 90-95 degrees for the first couple days. I'll talk about how we regulate the heat in here. And then we've got one of these little mason jar water dishes. Basically, you can just use any mason jar, screws right onto the base there. The galvanized base, and you fill it with water. A lot of people will fill that with rocks because they're afraid that the baby chicks are going to drown in there. I've never had an issue with that. They generally, if their head dunks in the water, they'll flop right out of it. They're strong enough to kind of get out of the way if they need to. So a lot of people will tell you, you got to put your heat lamp at a certain height in here, and you got to raise it up and make sure that you got just the right temperature in there. We've never done that. What we do is we put the heat lamp in here on an angle, and so we're getting kind of the most direct heat right in this area. And so the hottest spot right here, and then on the outside of that area is a little bit cooler, and they will actually find the temperature that they are comfortable in. So if they need to get warmer, they'll cuddle up in the middle. If they need to get cooler, they'll head to the outside of that heat area, and that's how they regulate their temperature. We've never had an issue with it. They always do just fine in our brooders, and so I wouldn't worry too much about that, as long as you have plenty of space like this in here where they can get away from the heat if they need to, or get close to it if they need to. Now, one of the things that we do very differently than a lot of people is we don't use those red or white big heat bulbs. This is an infrared ceramic heat bulb. It doesn't produce any light, it just produces heat. And this is 150 watts versus the 250 watt light bulb ones. And this will last you, I don't want to say forever, but it'll last a super long time. These ceramic, or these heat emitters, they're for reptile cages and stuff. They work way better than those red bulbs. Those red bulbs are going to last you a season, if that, and they're going to burn out. These things last quite a bit longer. And so we order all these on Amazon, and highly recommend these over the brooder lights that they normally sell you. So a lot of people are going to tell you that that the red light will help them to not peck at each other. If they see blood or anything like that, they'll start to kind of peck at each other. That might be true. The red light will help with that, but we generally don't have an issue with that. If we do have a chick that's getting pecked at or pecked on, we'll separate him or her from the rest of them with a smaller little cardboard box in here and let them heal up, and then we'll put them back together. But we don't worry too much about that red light issue. So when they come in for the first time, we generally will take them over and show them the food. Just kind of stick their nose in there, maybe put your finger on it, tap it a little bit, get them interested in it so they know where that's at. And then same with the water. We'll bring them over and stick their beak in the water. And we only need to do that for the first one or two that we put in here, because the rest of them are going to see their buddies eating and drinking, and they'll follow suit. They're interested in whatever the other ones are doing. So if one starts pecking at food, they'll all head over there and start pecking at the food. So this is always an exciting time when when the 21 days is up. We're always in here. The girls and I are always just checking the incubator all day, all night. Sometimes we were up late last night. One started hatching about 1:30 in the morning, And so we just want to make sure everything's set up, everything's taken care of. But that is how we go through our whole entire incubation process from start to finish. These guys will stay in here in this little bathroom area in our house. They'll stay in this brooder with the heat lamp on them for at least a couple weeks, probably 3 weeks, just depends on the outside temperature. Once the temperatures at night aren't dropping below 60 degrees, then you can take them out there, or if they're over 3 or 4 weeks old, at that point they can go go outside. These guys will actually go out, and we're starting a separate flock with them, and so 3 or 4 weeks we'll have them outside and be raising them up for the next generation of the SSL Family Farm chickens here. So we've had a very good luck with this process. This incubator is pretty cheap as far as incubators go. It's a styrofoam incubator, and it's actually lasted us, I think it's been 3 or 4 years we've had this now, and it's still working just fine for us. So you don't need a lot of expensive equipment to do this on a small scale, and it's been working really well. If you have questions about the process, if I forgot or left something out, I'd love to hear from you guys. So that stuff in the comments. I try to answer all those questions that you may have. Of course, don't forget to hit thumbs up on today's video and subscribe to the channel. If this is your first time to the SSL Family Dad channel, we'd love to have you tag along for all the fun. We do lots of farming and DIY things and farm animals and other things. So love to have you tag along for all that. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.